Permítanme presentarles a Thomas McDaniel, de Estados Unidos. Thomas McDaniel es diseñador y creador de programas que permiten a las compañías obtener los mejores resultados de seguridad, calidad, eficiencia y rentabilidad a través del uso de rendimiento humano, seguridad y pérdidas de control. Tom busca proveer un nuevo entendimiento de cómo la gente trabaja en sistemas complejos. Ha desarrollado numerosos procesos que ahora son usados a través de la industria, incluyendo métodos para identificar las ventajas organizacionales y las desventajas con métodos satisfactorios. Tiene más de 38 años de experiencia trabajando alrededor del mundo. Ha ayudado a muchas organizaciones, moviéndolas a la quinta etapa o era de seguridad. Ahora Tom tiene su propia consultora, Tom McDaniel & Associations, donde elaboran muchos expertos en la industria en Xxiii, Safety Differently and Human Performance. Tom ayuda a establecer estándares de potencial que trae la seguridad en cualquier organización. Regularmente es invitado para dar discursos de Safety Culture and Safety Too. Tom promueve el concepto de construir organizaciones poderosas y efectivas que pueden lograr excelentes operaciones, aún con personal susceptible a errores cognitivos. Una frase que él mucho difunde: no se trata de corregir a las personas, se trata de corregir a la organización y el sistema que está alrededor de ellas. No se puede corregir seguridad enfocándose en seguridad. Permite a tu gente tener un mal día y aún así ser exitoso. El tema que nos expondrá Tom es Safety 2, nuevos enfoques y aplicaciones. Por favor, un fuerte aplauso para Thomas McDaniel.
Thank you. I have absolutely no idea what you said, but hopefully it was good. So, I'm going to take a little bit different direction this afternoon. I kind of want to wrap up the day. I spent the day kind of looking at other people's presentations, and there was some really good stuff that came out today. I wanted to make sure that you capture this, because it's really all about improving safety for all of us. One of my best friends said at a conference once, he said, "Your accident is my accident." And that's true. If any one of us has an accident, it belongs to all of us. So we're out here all working to make sure that we reduce accidents to the greatest extent possible. Absolutely. I mean, that's why I've never met anybody who's not passionate about safety if you're in this business. You have to have passion for safety. I've had a long career in safety. I've actually been in safety now for coming up on 39 years. I think I got involved in safety because as an engineer, I was hurting myself pretty regularly. And they finally said, "Hey, you should be in charge of safety." And so it started a long career. And I've actually been fortunate in that career. I've traveled all over the world. I've worked in most countries. I've definitely worked in all cultures. And I've seen a lot of how safety works in different places. And I've been able to bring all this together and hopefully help many organizations. I did just retire from Siemens. I spent 30 years with Siemens in the energy industry. It was a fantastic German company. I'd say once again, I pretty much got on an airplane every week, flew someplace, but that was okay. I enjoyed doing it. I got so many frequent flyer miles that my wife, who's hiding in the back row, we got to take a lot of trips around the world, with frequent flyer miles. So, but one of the things is probably about 20 years ago, I took a different direction with safety. Everyone knows there's typically the 4 ages or 4 stages of safety. You have compliance, behavior, management systems, and culture. The last update to safety was 32 years ago with culture. There's really not been any updates since that time. Now, a lot of people have done some new things. I implemented human performance 15 years ago. I mean, a lot of things have done, but the 4 basic ages or stages of safety are still there. There's nothing new has happened. And it's past time that we update safety. All you have have to do is look and say all these great professionals like yourselves are working in this industry, and we're still having accidents everywhere. We're still having fatalities everywhere. So even though the rates have been reduced for the general type of incidents, we're still having a lot of fatalities. In Siemens, we had about 360,000 people. With our contractors included, we had about 20 fatalities a year. It was a very serious issue. This is why I started taking a different direction, wanting to do something different with safety. I was fortunate enough, many years ago, I got tied in with James Reason. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the name James Reason. He's the guy that with the Swiss cheese model. He's a psychology professor out of Manchester in the UK. And he really, took me by the hand and really started showing me that there was different things that we could do. He didn't have all the answers, but it was really a start of this second career of safety that we've been progressing. And currently I work very closely with Dr. Erik Hanagel out of Denmark. So there's a lot of things we're doing to try to take safety to this next level. Because once again, still far too many incidents. The first slide I'm going to show you is from a think tank that I led in London, and we had a few meetings there. And what we wanted to do in this think tank is we pretty much got the people together who were interested in advancing safety. I'm not talking like the top-level safety professionals. These were the people who were interested in saying, I'm not satisfied with safety. I want to see something different. And we brought together what we call our truths, or our overlooked truths. This was something that we said in our organization we could agree upon, that everything, all of these statements we held as truth. That was our basic document, our centering document, something that we could build upon. So going through this slide, and honestly, every time we have an issue or an incident, we tend to go back to this slide and see, did we miss something or not? First one, nobody comes to work to cause a safety or quality incident. I think it was on somebody else's slide earlier today. Absolutely, I truly believe that. Incidents still occur, but that's not the reason they came to work. People want to do a good job. Absolutely. Occasionally I've found some people who are maybe lazy. Yeah, okay, that happens. But people generally, they come to work to do a good job. Next one, you can't stop cognitive errors, but you can be incident-free. Now, this started advancing our thinking, understanding that, I don't use the term human error anymore. Most of us are trying to get rid of that term, because even today I saw it used two different ways. I saw it used with the cognitive act and then also the event. So I use the term cognitive errors. So we generally, as individuals, we have 10 to 12 cognitive errors every hour. That's just us being human. We can't stop being human. We are human. We have to work with that. Now, our industries say, hey, we've got to have perfect safety, perfect quality. We have to make a profit. We have to, do all these things, but we still have to work with humans. How are we going to do that? Next one, people don't think and act alike. Sometimes we tend to think that when we do a training class or we put a program in place, that everybody will get the same message. They'll action the same way from it. And that's not the case at all. People hear and think differently. They pick up different messages. They'll hear maybe something from their background, and they'll have a completely different understanding. Language is fateful. This one is critical because we know that the organizations that speak that we will be incident-free, we will have top-level safety. We will, have top-level quality. It eventually becomes that. But I've seen organizations, too, that say accidents happen, there's nothing we can do about it. And guess what? Accidents happen, there's nothing they can do about it. It's so critical to get the language right in an organization. Perceptions of risks varies from person to person. People are different. Some people are risk takers. Some people, won't take on any risk at all. People are very different in that. This next one is we could probably spend the whole day talking about this one, but past and current interpretations are no proof of truth. Or a way of saying that where it directly applies, especially when we start talking about safety too, is just because we've done a task and didn't have an incident, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean we did the task with the best safety, with the best quality, in the most efficient manner. It doesn't really mean anything. This probably right here is the one thing that's holding back safety more than anything else. Because people tend to think that, hey, as long as we didn't have a safety incident, we're okay. Everything's fine. That's not the truth at all. The reality is every single task that we do has some level of organizational weaknesses, management systems that are failed, weak, or non-existent, or maybe on the opposite side, maybe it has some management systems or operational systems that are working very well, and we can capture those and socialize them. So this is one of the things, one of the hurdles we have to get across if we are really going to truly improve safety, is get past this concept that just because we didn't have an incident, it means it was okay. That's not the case at all. Later on in these slides, I'll show you some of the incident investigation processes that I've used and are using, where I can actually go out and investigate any task, even a successful task, and I can find the weaknesses in an organization. There's no reason to wait for failure to learn. You can learn with any task. So, next one. Violation is a normal event. People violate. People take shortcuts. Actually, these shortcuts will increase with experience. In the aviation industry, they say, with experience comes baggage. It's kind of the same thing. The older we get, the more we violate. We take chances. If we take a shortcut one time and get away with it, we'll do it again. Guaranteed, 100%, we will do it again. So this gives some insight as far as when you're managing your people, is look for those things. We had a great discussion on managing behaviors. Well, you have to look at violations as well, because people are in violation, especially the most experienced people out there. Now, unfortunately, I've had to investigate numerous fatalities in my career. For Siemens and for Westinghouse, I was a person that they sent out when there was something bad happened. And especially when I was on the high voltage industry side, there wasn't a lot of near misses. When you're dealing with high voltage, you're either not hurt or you tend to be hurt dead. But there was some occasion where people were shocked with high voltage that still survived. That common theme was that they had no fear of electricity. They had pretty much at that point, they had worked around electricity for 20 years, 30 years. They had no more fear. So violation is a key thing that we need to look for as we're advancing our safety programs. This one I'm kind of famous for in industry. It kind of shakes up some safety people out there, but you can't fix safety by focusing on safety. You can't. It takes something much more than just focusing on compliance, behavior, management systems, and culture. You have to dive much deeper into the organization and understand how the organization functions, how it communicates, what levels of violation the organization is accepting. I have made many organizations in Siemens and some of Siemens' customers very successful. But I've done it not by focusing on safety. I've had to understand how the organizations function and fix those things inside deeper in the organization. And this is where this blurb came from. And just give an idea, in some of these cases, I've been able to turn these organizations around, not by focusing on safety, but by focusing on the organization, then improve safety, improve quality, turn around their profitability, make them very successful, and also make their customers successful. I mean, that's why we're in business, is to make our customers successful and make a profit as well. When you look at safety, quality, efficiency, profitability, and customer satisfaction, they're actually all outputs of the same task. They're the same thing. You either get it right or you don't get it right. So that's why you can't focus just on the output of safety. You got to focus on the inputs to the system. And that's where you're going to find success. Organizations are people, not machines. It's easy to work with people. It's easy to begin influencing and changing them. But you got to realize every single individual, and this maybe relates back to some behavior things, every single individual is actually made up of numerous social systems. That's what we are as people. If I look at myself, I'm a member of the social system called St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm also a member of a social system of my religion. I'm also the social system, I'm a sailor, so there's a social system of sailing. Each one of these social systems actually establishes our norms and boundary for thinking and action. But we're made up of hundreds of these social systems. So when you begin to talk about behavior and so forth, you actually have to look at what makes up the person. What's the makeup of the person? Because each one of these social systems is influencing the person as to what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. I kind of use the example, sometimes I'll have Harley Davidson riders, motorcycle riders come to work. They come to work on their Harley and they got the ponytail and the leather jackets on. What type of social system and standards is that established? Well, they're very carefree. They're very carefree, kind of screw the world. They're very happy. But as soon as they come to work, they put their hard hat on and their safety glasses and their steel-toe shoes. See, they switch from one social system to another social system. And that's okay. It's what people do. The goal is, in an organization, is to understand that and build a strong overriding social system that therefore establishes the norms and boundaries for thinking and action. It's much more robust than focusing on behavior at the individual level. Actually, you're fixing at the organization level. Very powerful, very effective. Little things make a big difference. A lot of people talked about that today. Sometimes the words of encouragement, engaging with people can make all the difference in the world. It's very hard to observe people and understand them. I can look at you, but I can't understand what's going on. But I can engage with you, ask you questions, what's going on in your life, what's going on with your family, how's other things going, and I can get a much better understanding. This is the kind of stuff that we do that's very effective, on an organization level when you do those types of things. Like I remember 30 years ago using the DuPont Stop program. It was just not effective because it was something that we were, observing people, but we weren't engaging people. And this is what we understand that we need to do. This one, you can't fix people, but you can fix the systems that influence their behavior. You can't fix people. I raise children. My wife and I know. You can't fix people, but you can fix the systems that influence their behavior. It's very critical that you understand that, because this is the kind of stuff that you begin to understand what people are all about and how, if you want to change change the organization, want to change the way they action, this is the type of thing that you need to do. Next one, getting close to the end of this one. You can always intervene between error and an incident. You may want to decide if it's worthwhile or not, but you can always intervene between an error and an incident. Management systems create that intervention. Now, aviation is the best example of organizations that have done this very effectively. They estimate in airline cockpits alone, there's about 100 million cognitive errors annually. About 100 million. But their systems are so robust that they'll intervene, they'll stop the error from turning into an incident, whether it's with a pilot, co-pilot, checklists. Sometimes it's built into the system. Of course, we just had a situation where the system failed with the two 737 MAXs, which is very unfortunate. But this is what they're always saying. That so you have to decide if the criticality of outcome is worth it. If I'm typing an email and I misspell something, maybe it's not important. But if I'm typing an email to a distribution to 5,000 people, maybe it is important at that time. So these are kind of things that I might want to use a peer check or some other human performance tools or practices to before I would send the email out. And this last one, we forget to be afraid. We become risk tolerant. So I suggest that every organization create something like this, a truth slide, something that establishes what you are, especially on your maturity scale, that really says, this is what we're all about. This is what we care about. It could be part of your management stand, but it's something that really should be a living document and something that you work on. And it's going to be different for everybody. That's okay. There's some people who have used mine. That's fine. But it should be one that you establish for your own organization, because this really then establishes what you hold as near and dear, the truths to your organization, and how you're going to function from that point on. So, safety 2. I actually began working with Eric on Safety 2 even before he came up with the term Safety 2, Eric Hodnagel out of Denmark. Safety 2, at a quick summation, is really focusing on understanding why things go well. Most tasks go well. There's not an incident. Why do they go well? Once again, you can learn and try to replicate why things go well, or you can wait for failure. Well, Safety 2 is something, we just held our first U.S. conference on Safety 2. We held one in the UK last summer, but we had our first one in the U.S. in February. And we started looking at, how can we implement Safety 2 with traditional safety? There's nothing wrong with traditional safety. Those of you that are doing the, compliance, behavior, management systems, culture, there's nothing wrong with that, except it's going to be very limited. Sometimes it's going to fail. What we wanted to do was to create a more robust 5th level of safety that we can now begin to get us to this next level, so that we can, have improved safety. I'm not going to read off each one of those. You can read those off. But one of the issues that we have right now is that, and I've got a paper that I'm writing right now on this, is our focus on incident rates is at this point causing more harm than the value it creates. This is critical now. 10, 15 years ago, we had so many accidents, it was okay to focus on rates. Most of us today have incident rates that are point something. We've done very well. The numbers are no longer significant. Whether you have one incident this year and two next year, it doesn't really mean anything anymore. That the value has decreased now from looking at that. So what we're trying to do now is look and say, is there other data measurements that we can put in place that would better really truly reflect the health of the organization? Is there other things that we can look at? And I'm not talking just lagging and leading indicators. This is something totally different. Is there a new type of set of data that we can begin to look at and say, I can now understand your organization, where the issues really reside, and now we can design a customized response to that. And I've got some ideas for you on that. So what we have now is I think those of you pretty much went through all of this. Let me get to the laser pointer here. Yeah, blame cultures still widely exist. We all agree. We see them everywhere. They're not, unfortunately, blame cultures, aren't going to go away. In some cases, we created this blame culture by showing our managers what we presume safety is, which is the absence of accidents. Therefore, when there is an accident, and then remember the earlier slide where I talked about, that a lack of an incident really doesn't mean anything, or a lack, let me state that again. That the earlier slide where he talked about, that if we don't have an incident, we still could have done things incorrectly. This is why managers are assuming that if an incident does occur, that somebody must have done something wrong because we did this task before without incident. Somebody must have screwed up. Somebody failed. And that's really not the case. It doesn't take failure, by the way, to have an incident. Sometimes new combinations of items will help lead to an incident. It doesn't take failure for an incident. Sometimes things happen. Just culture. There's little understanding of a just culture. There's a great book by Sidney Decker. If you're a safety professional, it should be a must read. Just culture is what resides between a blame and a blame-free culture, and it's still something that we need to understand a just culture, because it will help you design your organization, especially in response to incidents. If an incident occurs, where does accountability and responsibility really truly reside? Well, we know it's not with the worker, but there should be some type of accountability somewhere. If it was just an honest mistake, maybe not, but chances are there was something deeper in the organization. So just culture is critical to building success. Certainty still permeates safety. I see a lot of safety professionals that are very certain that this is the only way to do it. There's a lot of ways to do safety. OSHA in the U.S., they're far behind. OSHA in the U.S., while they may have some very good standards for safety, it's a very poor management system for safety. Other countries are far better. I've worked all around the world, and I can tell you that U.S. OSHA is far behind, and there's zero chance of them getting better. So we live with what we live with. Very much a true misunderstanding of culture and the influence of culture on behavior. Most people don't know how to build a true safety culture. They don't understand what it is. And, there's a technique to building a culture, and a culture can become very strong and very overriding. And, I've built some very powerful cultures and very effective cultures in the organizations I've supported around the world. It will be different for every country, though. Not one thing works everywhere. It will be slightly different. You have to understand that. We still have a lot of silo organizations. We still have the safety organization here, the quality organization here, maybe business improvement. That needs to go away. They really need to be part of the same thing, because they're all outputs of the same process. Why do we have these different organizations? Now, yes, there's this thing called technical safety. I will accept that. There's people that need to be involved in design for lifting and rigging and so forth. But truly, to manage safety, all of these need to be brought in together. And there's next one here, there's a lack of understanding of multi-social system influences. People need to understand that there's just people are all so different. But you can still build a system that will be overriding, but you got to understand where they're coming from. People are different, and some of this is strong. When I work in some Middle Eastern countries, I mean, with Allah and everything else, it's like this stuff is overpowering. Some of the stuff that we think, like, why would we ever want to do that? That's ridiculous. It's normal to them, and it truly is. Root causes are causes. A little story about that. Somebody said root cause this morning, and I cringed. I had Dr. James Reason was sitting on my back porch about 15 years ago, and I said root cause. And he gave me about a 45-minute lecture on root cause and why never to use the concept of root cause. So I don't use root cause anymore. It's always multiple causes and contributing factors at different levels of influence. Using the term root cause is very misleading. It tends to think that there's going to be one thing, the smoking gun, there's going to be something that failed. And that's not the case at all. It's usually multiple things, different levels of influence, and that's really how we have to kind of look at where we're going with this. And the next one, we're working with irrelevant data. It's time for incident rates to go away once and for all. They provide absolutely no value. At this point, they cause harm. There's no value in incident rates whatsoever. It doesn't make any, if anything, it's harming an organization focusing on rates. Now, if your maturity of safety is still at the bottom and you're having 50 accidents a year, yeah, okay, maybe you still want to keep incident rates around. But chances are, if you've got a very mature organization, you may want to think about, you may still have to report that, but keep the reporting just to where it's necessary. Train your management to look at other things than incident rate data. Because once again, we've mistrained our managers for so many years that now that's all they look for. The one-page slide that shows the green arrows or red arrows or yellow arrows, that's all they want to look for now. And it's causing more harm than good. So I told you I changed my presentation somewhat, so I'm not going to get through all of these slides. So we've managed rate. One of the problems is we've managed rates rather than safety. This is a big issue because I see organizations with good safety people doing all this after the fact, after the incidents occurred, trying to manage something to make sure doesn't become lost time, or get a doctor's note so we can bring them back to work. They're more truly interested in managing the rate than truly managing the health and safety of the person. Once again, another thing that's harming us. As rates decrease, so do opportunities for learning. This is why we have to start looking at new opportunities to learn in your organization, which is where Safety 2 comes in. Because, as an example, there's 3 organizations in Siemens that I have supported up until 2 years ago that both went 5 years without a single incident, not a first aid, not a recordable, not a medical treatment, nothing. And all 3 had fatalities. So this is what's happening, is a lot of organizations, because their incident rates, their numbers are dropping, their opportunities for learning have ceased as well. And that right there is enough of an argument to begin looking stronger at safety too. Most investigation processes are weak. They don't go as far enough to identify the organizational weaknesses in systems. Most processes go as far as finding the culprit, who's to blame, and that's where they stop. I looked at every investigation process in industry, and I ended up having to build my own to put on top of other investigation processes, because all of them out there were so weak that they didn't go far enough, especially with understanding, organizational systems and management systems, understanding cognitive errors. None of them went deep enough that I ended up having to build my own. So that's what I'm saying. Right now, most investigation processes are of minimal value. They're not robust enough. Most investigations only conducted based on the actual outcome, not the maximum foreseeable loss. This is harmful in the fact that a lot of organizations say, well, we're only going to investigate lost time incidents. Well, it may have been a near miss that could have easily become a fatality, but they say, oh, we're not going to investigate those. So they're missing the logic here. We should be looking at this maximum foreseeable loss and really make determinations based on that. So safety too. We're really looking, how we assess work tasks. I will tell you that everything that we typically call an incident or the outcome of the task is not the incident. Those are all further back in the organization, and they exist with every task. Whether it leads to an outcome incident or not, they're still there. You can find them. Always looking at, we never look there. This is where we get surprised a lot of times when we're doing our incident investigations. And this is where safety too, where we start looking at most tasks, not everyone, but start looking at most tasks a little bit more thoroughly, we begin to find these things. And it breaks the assumption that, the lack of an incident means that we did something correct. This is what we're going towards. Someone was taking a picture of that one. Go ahead and take your picture. Okay. All right. So, we always think that something or someone failed for an incident to occur. It's not the case. Someone or something succeeded if there wasn't an accident. That's not the case as well. Once again, every single task, if you look at it, you will begin to find the weaknesses that exist in your organization. These weaknesses can be fixed. Remember I said earlier, people can't be fixed? I joked about my children. All these organizational weaknesses, they can be fixed. But this is the new set of data that we need to be collecting and looking at and reporting to our management, saying here's the things that are really the true risks in your organization. I always hold that the job of a safety professional is to bring the closest interpretation of the truth to your management. That's what we need to do. We need to tell them the truth, the closest interpretation possible. Let them make the decisions based on that. And this is what, and by looking at our traditional safety models, the way we've been managing safety, it's not possible. That's why we need this new focus. And a lot of times we only identify the outcome of the incident. We're missing all the meat, all the stuff that's really important. We're missing this, and this is what we need to start looking at. I'm probably going to go over one more slide here. Safety to surprise. Organizational weaknesses and strengths are everywhere. You know, if we look for them, we will find them, and we can capture this data. Safety 2 assessment opened up more than understanding what made something go well. You know, we get it. Why do things work most of the time? And we created the need for a new way to observe and assess. So you're going to hear a lot more about Safety 2, safety differently, new view of safety in the coming years. It's coming. It has to come because we've reached a point, once again, traditional safety has so many limitations. There's not been any advancement since Jim Reason, brought forth the concept of safety culture 32 years ago. There's not been any advancements in safety at all. For safety is in the U.S. is about 50 years old. And you think about it, there's grand opportunities to do it much better. So this is where we're at. Stay tuned. A lot more stuff's coming out about Safety 2 and Safety Differently. Ron Gant back here runs the Safety Differently website, not the SharePoint, whatever you want to call it. He runs a SharePoint for Safety Differently. I write a lot of articles on LinkedIn. If you want to LinkedIn with me, I write a lot of articles about Safety 2 and the advantages and the direction that we're going in with this. So with that, I'm going to skip these slides here, and I'm going to go to this one right here. Why are we waiting for failure to learn? This is one of the big things that's holding us back right now. We're still waiting for failure to learn, and there's no reason to do that anymore. So with that, do you want to take some questions?
Okay. Pasaremos a la rueda de preguntas, por favor. Vamos a seguir la misma dinámica. Las personas que tengan alguna pregunta levantan la mano y le pasamos el micrófono. Por aquí, por favor.
Buenas tardes. Ronnie Cotrao, de Sabor, Perú. Mencionó que las tasas de incidentes no son correctas, ¿no? Para que nos enfoquemos en analizarlas. ¿Podría mencionarlos?
Ay, coño. Una pregunta para que el orador pueda escuchar la traducción.
Pero...
Ok, no, ya lo resolvieron. Sí, ya lo tengo. Gracias.
Gracias.
Hola.
Okay. ¿Is okay?
Can you hear me, sir?
Can't hear anything yet.
Can you hear me?
Ya, de nuevo, por favor.
Ok. Ya, la pregunta era...
My question is...
Hello.
¿Ahora sí?
Sí.
Ya. Mencionó que las empresas no deberían enfocarse en las tasas de incidentes. ¿Podría mencionarnos un ejemplo de un indicador efectivo en el cual sí deberíamos enfocarnos?
Yes. Okay. Yes, the question was talking about rates or indicators that we should focus on. Absolutely. One of the things that let's see, I don't know if this is still up. No, it's not. That's okay. One of the things that would be the most beneficial is as we begin to do further looks at tasks and begin to identify management systems that are failed, weak, or non-existent, that maybe had nothing to do with the outcome of the task, but they were there. Or the management systems or operational systems that are working well. This is the type of beneficial data that then creates the ability for an organization to action with. Because this now is saying that all this is occurring back here, deeper in the organization, had nothing to do with the output. Or maybe it did. But regardless of what had to do with the output, it's still finding what's broken, what's weak, or what's working well. This is the type of data that we need now to start so that we can now then report to our management that says, all of these things are occurring in your organization. You know, they didn't lead to incidents this time, maybe next time, but now it gives them the ability to take that data and action with it. An example might be like you notice in your organization that the workers are tolerant of violations. They're just tolerant of violations. It's just what they do. It didn't lead to an incident, but if they keep that up, maybe it will. So this is where we need to start focusing on those things that what truly represents the organization. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. But the more that the process that I built, and I've had it online to look at, you can do about a 15-minute observation/investigation and find that. You don't have to have a 2-day or 3-day investigation. You can, in about 15 minutes, you can uncover all of those things. Maybe you only get 80% of them, but you can quickly begin to uncover them. That's what we need to do. That's where we're truly then going to be providing value to our management.
Okay. La siguiente pregunta, por favor.
Next question, please.
Muchas gracias, doctor
Thank you,
Tom.
Tom.
Quien habla es Rolando Quispe de la UNSA.
My name is Rolando Quispe.
Usted manifestó de que los sistemas sociales
That social systems
también producen distintas acciones.
use different actions.
Tendré que decirle que en mi país nosotros lo mejor que tenemos es una diversidad cultural,
We have a cultural
inclusive racial,
diversity,
¿no?
even
Dentro de ello, ¿cómo nosotros podríamos
how
alinear para unificar acciones
mind to unify
frente a la inseguridad o frente a la accidentabilidad que tenemos en nuestras empresas?
or
Muchas gracias.
accidents and incidents in our organizations?
Good. That's a very good question.
Muy buena pregunta.
People will always be different.
Personas siempre serán
Don't expect them to be the same. Remember our first slide? People don't think and act alike. Just accept it. But what you want to do is build an overriding social system that says, when you come to work, this is how you do things. Maybe off work, you ride your Harley Davidson motorcycle, put your ponytail back or something. But when you come to work, this is how you action. This is critical. But you have to accept that everybody's different. That's fine. I mean, people are going to have different backgrounds, different standards. That's okay. I had organizations that would show up to a job site where I had people from Portugal, Spain, Germany, Poland, US, all with different standards. That's okay. That's fine. As long as I built an overriding social system that said, I don't care what it was, what you did when you were back in Poland. When you come here, this is how we do things. So it's really establishing, that management stand each and every time, the expectations. It's critical.
Okay. Una última pregunta, por favor.
One final question.
Bien. Si no tenemos más preguntas, por favor, un fuerte aplauso para Tom McDaniel. Muchas gracias. Con esto concluiríamos la rueda de presentaciones del día de hoy. Les agradecemos mucho su persistencia, por todo. Mañana a las 9 de la mañana, por favor, los estamos esperando. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.